10 o'clock hour. I would like to open the Board of Supervisors meeting. The Board of Supervisors of the County of Del Norte and the governing body of all other special assessment and taxing districts for which said board so acts is now meeting in regular session. Only those items that indicate a specific time will be heard at the assigned time. All other items may be taken out of sequence to accommodate the public and staff availability. And Supervisor McClure will lead us in the pledge today.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any new employees with us today that would need to be introduced?
Yes, we do. Amy, you want to come over? This is Amy Cox. She's our newest employee, taking the position of analyst in the risk management division. She is now the risk management division, along with Joey, who is assisting because he held this position.
Are you saying you just doubled the size of the department?
Excuse me?
Did you say you just doubled the size of the department?
Yeah.
From one employee to two?
From 0 to 1. It went from 1. She's replacing Sherry Adams.
Yeah.
And would you like to say anything?
Hello.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome, Amy.
Thank you.
Report of any actions from closed session by County Council.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Do we have any deletions, corrections, or additions from board members to the agenda at this time?
No, I'd like to pull item 10 to talk about off the consent agenda.
Okay. We will receive brief reports or announcements from the supervisors. Supervisor Finnegan, would you like to begin?
Sure. Relatively uneventful couple of weeks for a change. Started off with the first 5 commission, Children and Families Commission of Del Norte County. Things are going well there. Getting fantastic work out of leveraging the AmeriCorps workers. Doing a great job there. Then I had a couple of different CSAC calls, the State Association of Counties officers calls every Wednesday. The main focus has been the initiative for regarding constitutional guarantees for the funding for AB 109 and all the other realignment projects. It has gone to title and summary. It is before the Attorney General. We expect that we'll get it back sometime between Christmas and New Year's. It was amended once. That's why it's coming back so late. It was amended to allow for the big city mayors to get on board, as well as the police chiefs and the Sheriff's Association. So we think we're forming that good coalition. If everything goes right and we get a positive response or positive wording on the title and summary, then as well as a positive fiscal impact, or at least not a negative one, then it'll be available for us to start gathering signatures the first of the week. So anybody that's going to the CSAC annual conference, I'm sure this will be a hot topic and something to pay attention to. Attended one of the community security, safety concerns meetings, the forum that everybody, or that several hundred people, I think, over 2 locations attended. I went to the one at the fairgrounds, well attended. Good information by some, erroneous information by others. Leave it at that. Then also participated in a National County Schools Forest Coalition meeting. The board meeting, we approved the budgets. The budget is going to be going down. They're probably looking at that campaign and the coalition joining forces again with the board. They're trying to figure out who's on first, really. You have the Assembly out there that wants to talk about a bill that deals with forest practices that is not going to happen overnight. And that's like, turning a battleship on a dime. It's just not going to happen. And then the other one, the Senate, of course, just having a ramp down, but just an extension with a minor ramp down. That's really what needs to happen, because next month is going to be our last payment on those timber receipts. So I think it expires after 2012, but you're talking $2 million to this community. Then after that, really just dealt with family. Had an opportunity to spend some time with my dad, one of my brothers, and all is well going into Thanksgiving.
Thank you, David. Supervisor McClure?
Yes, I had several different meetings. One of the most outstanding meetings probably was the Building Healthy Communities meeting where they had with the Teachers Forum of information and exchange, and that was very well attended. I participated in a Sunrise Rotary as a guest speaker for information about the Coastal Commission, how an appeal becomes an appeal. And the senior board, we met, and with West Chesbrough's assistance, we have been guaranteed that next year's funding is in line, and we're going to be, we're going to still have to be figuring out what we can do fiscally with the problems of the past year, but we have been guaranteed that we'll be funded for our operations, so that's a really good thing. Wes was here. He had a little fundraiser out at Smith River, and I participated in that. I went down and watched the Veterans Day Parade, and Solid Waste had its meeting, and we'll meet now as a 10-member board. The IT Goal Committee met and went over the Google Apps and how that works, and I'm using Google Apps, so I like it. And then also a phone meeting with the EMS, and everything is going there fairly well. And they're struggling along with budget, but it's all coming together. I also attended the community meeting about the number of burglaries and what we can do as a community. And agree with David that there was some good information and other information that was making me kind of scratch my head. And I have met with a couple of the VISTA volunteers, and they're really nice to have such fresh ideas and energy in our community, and I think that in the long run will help this community change its paradigm a little bit. So good work to all of those people involved. And that's it.
Thank you. Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes. Well, I attended a local transportation commission meeting where we adopted the Regional Transportation Improvement Program. We also rescinded the resolution that was paying stipends, or we officially rescinded the resolution that was paying stipends to the elected officials, so that's no longer happening. We authorized the director to sign a cooperative agreement with Caltrans and enter into a contract with LSC Transportation Consultants for consultant services for Phase 1 of the traffic calming project on US Highway 101 that we've been working on for a number of years, and hopefully we're going to get that going. I attended the Veterans Day Parade. That was very well attended. A lot of people there. Also went over and went to the services for Charlie Rossini, who's longtime business owner of Coast to Coast. You all may know him. He's been a family friend for as long as I can remember. They used to be basically our neighbors. And that was a pretty sad thing. Also attended the town hall meeting due to the spike in home burglaries. I thought it was great to see the number of people attend. It was at the Arts and Crafts Building at the fairgrounds. You know, virtually standing room only. A lot of people got up and spoke, and you know, there were some good ideas, and as they said, there was some bad ideas, but at least people were out there speaking their mind. So I thought that was, I think it was a great format, and I think it'll continue. I had a follow-up meeting at the Lake Earl Grange that the parking is not near as nice, and there was less than standing room only. That place was absolutely packed at the Grange, but there was a lot of information out there. I think the main thing that should have been taken away from these meetings is the Neighborhood Watch program, and even if you don't belong to neighborhood watch, official neighborhood watch program, you should be knowing who should be on your block, who should be in your neighborhood, and who shouldn't be. A lot of people on bicycles. There's a lot of people on foot that are foot traffic only. That's how they're casing these joints out. So you need to be aware of who should be in your neighborhood, who shouldn't be. Ask the question, why are you here? Who are you looking for? Names if you can get them. If you see suspicious vehicles, get license numbers. It all helps. And I think more than anything, I think that's what was taken away from these meetings. I thought they were great. Had a meeting with staff and the Health and Human Services building lease with the Barnes family. We've come to a preliminary agreement, and hopefully that will all work out. Finally, we've been working on that for a couple, 3 years, Gary, 3 or 4 years. But really been getting down to numbers and getting things squared away. I think Gary and staff, Jay and Neil, everybody, and Leslie everybody I think did a great job, and we came to an agreement there. Had an RCD meeting that there's some issues out in the agriculture community that Fish and Game is having a problem with ag ditches now are becoming fish-bearing streams all of a sudden, and this is becoming a real issue, some real problems out there with that. So hopefully we can get that resolved. And also had a rerun presentation from Frank Galea on the elk viewing area that was pretty interesting. I also attended the airport terminal planning and design meeting that I thought went very well. Staff from Veneer and Waddell were there and went over some plans, and they came up with some plans that didn't really fit, and so we kind of switched them around, and they're going to refit them, and hopefully everything works out. And that was about it for me.
Keep those frog tunnels going.
Got to have frog tunnels.
Thank you. Supervisor Sullivan?
Attended the local transportation commission meeting. Supervisor Hemmingson reiterated, and the traffic calming safety on 101 has really been elevated to a higher priority with Caltrans because of the fatalities that have begun to happen. And really, we're talking north of town, so where the Patriot Station is, and you've got housing across the highway there, and so that's one of the areas that has really brought it to which actually the silver lining is that we're going to potentially be able to tap into another pool of money to actually do some of this stuff. Had several conversations with constituents about fire protection on Low Divide, and talked with Linda Crockett from the fire department as well as Glenn Hill, and Smithfield Fire Department is still providing fire protection up on Low Divide. The issue they're running into is these insurance underwriters now are using Google Earth and looking at, Googling it and saying, hey, that's a fire hazard there based on, they're living in Irvine or Reno. So we're going to hopefully work on potentially bringing them up to actually let them see what they're insuring instead of using Google Earth to do it. So, because in some cases it can jump a person's insurance premium up 2 to 3 times what they currently pay. So that's an ongoing issue. Attended hosted a reception after the Veterans Day parade. The weather cooperated great. It was a great parade. It actually went. The parade's gone for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes is usually done. This is about a half hour. You had quite a few people involved in the parade, so it seems to get bigger and bigger, and if the weather continues to cooperate, that's a great deal. Attended the Vets Dinner that night, where retired Major Adam Trask was the speaker, and always great event to recognize and they do a great job putting the event on also at the Vets Hall. On a lighter note, I now have an Oompa Loompa in the family, and my son tried out for the LRT production, and so he's now an Oompa Loompa. So I did get to see what parents go through going to the LRT auditions, and it's actually, you see the number of people perform in there, but you really had to come and see the number that try out for these functions. So it's pretty tremendous. So anyway, yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing that production, and I assume they're going to have orange skin and green hair, I assume. right, Mr. Young?
I don't know if we can get that much more.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna try.
That's it.
Thank you. I'd just like to add, you found out what it's like to go to the auditions. Now wait for the practices all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So, now we know. I had agenda review for this meeting. I met with the tax collector, actually. We met for lunch to discuss some issues that she has. Attended the automation technology meeting, whereas everyone else, or Supervisor McClure had mentioned, discussing the changeover from GroupWise to Google. We attended the last Del Norte Solid Waste Board meeting as it was in its old form. Look forward to the new board of 10 people. I'm just wondering how long those meetings may last. With Supervisor Hemmingson, I also met with the Lawrence family and Gary Blatnick and Neil and Jay over the negotiations for the new lease on social services building, and I think both sides left the table happy. So that's always nice. Also attended an air quality meeting in Eureka. We just had the usual reports, but we spent most of our time on labor negotiations. That's one part of the job I don't really enjoy much, but everybody's got their own ideas at what everybody should get. And we were actually discussing one of the programs that the Air Quality Board has, and it's the after hours program, which is someone always on call to answer phone calls, yet we don't let anyone go out after dark. And our questions were, why do we have someone on call that can't go out after dark? So anyway, we're still discussing what to do with the program, whether to drop it or just restructure it. And on a more fun side, I did attend 2 bazaars in Smith River, one last weekend and one this weekend. Great turnout at the one I attended at the Smith River Community Center. I guess that's what it's called. The Rancheria has the one there. Anyway, it was packed, and it was great because I got to stop and pick my daughter-in-law and my 4-month-old great-granddaughter to go up with me, so I got to walk around showing her off to everybody. So I had a good weekend, and that was about it for me. We're just a couple minutes short of public comment, so I will take the consent agenda with item 10 being pulled for discussion.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Joey, would you hold the vote, please?
Supervisor McClure?
Oh, sorry, wait. I need to have any public comment on the consent agenda only. Thank you. Thanks, Supervisor Hemmingson.
Supervisor McClure?
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes, I need to recuse myself on item number 8.
Supervisor Sullivan?
Yes.
Supervisor Finnegan?
Yes.
Chair McClure? McNamer, sorry.
Thank you. Yes.
You have item number 3 also, the proclamations.
They don't go until, they're on a time.
Well, they all need to be
okay.
read, so we don't have enough time
Sorry.
for that right at the moment. Gary, did you have something to say?
Item 10 now or later?
Actually, we need to go into
we got a
public
minute.
comment, and then we will come right back to item 10. So at this time, we'll open it up for public comment. Richard?
My name's Richard Miles. I'm a city resident, but I'm also a county resident. I find something very interesting First thing, I want to thank Caltrans for awarding funds to finish the Pebble Beach project. Not many people realize that that is a tourist area. It's part of the bike path. So if Martha sees me riding my bike out there, I hope she doesn't shoot me.
I promise I won't.
Only tasers.
Tasers? Okay. Also, I have some other concerns, and I want to point these out. There was a report in our newspaper about obesity. I'd like to make this a suggestion to you people, especially David.
I'm on a diet.
I was gonna- He's the slimmest one on the board.
I've tried and tried, Richard, I just can't.
Man,
I would hope the county would use the services of Deborah Krautz, I hope I have her name right, to review the items that are sold at the county's rec department food shacks and also in the gym. I believe it's kind of like what happens at the pool. There's some junk food there. And as somebody who has to give themselves shots of insulin, I know what happens with obesity. Also, I have another concern. And as the only active member of our skateboard committee, this really bothers me. Recently, Ed Foley had to use his limited resources to go into the skateboard and cover up language that my mother wouldn't even know. That's sad. I'd like to make a recommendation today. My county's park department only has limited funds. I believe it's time that if such activity keeps occurring there, that we lock it up. Because I think that's the only clear message we can send parents and the young people that use that park inappropriately, that if those kind of actions don't stop, the county will do something about it.
thank you, Richard.
All kidding aside, Richard, that's a great suggestion as far as the snack shacks and the food that's being consumed there. So I think we'll take a look at that. Thanks.
Any other public comment?
Scott Feller, District Representative for Senator LaMalfa. 2 visits ago, the senator was here in our community, and we had all our senior staff here, and a lot of you got to meet a lot of them. And one of the things that was interesting to the staff was the draft point of honor out there at the S-curves for our veterans. And the senator is a big supporter of our veterans, had attended a number of the parades and events on Veterans Day. And with that, he's instructed me and sent up to us on behalf of the California State Senate and your Senator, Doug LaMalfa, a certificate of recognition to the Del Norte County Board of Supervisors for your continuing support of Del Norte County veterans who have served past and present. So on behalf of the senator.
Very nice.
Thanks, Scott.
Okay, any other public comment? Seeing none? Oh, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to pass along something. And basically what this is a democracy, and asking for a commission to be formed to look at a matter that will affect the health and safety of many of your constituents. This law has been in effect for 15 years, and it's very clear in its intent. Senate Bill 420 was set up to regulate the Compassionate Use Act and have consistent guidelines throughout the California counties. There's been a lot of talk lately in the last couple months about this issue, and I think this issue needs to be looked at fair and in an open process, in a public process, with input from all reasonable parties. And I'd just like to humbly, respectfully ask that you folks would consider this matter, put it on the agenda into public input, and so we can look at this situation with open eyes. And this is basically in reference to the article that was published in the paper here last week. There were some inconsistent comments in there that stated that they were going to be looking at possibly banning something that, from the court's outlook, cannot be banned. It can be regulated for the health and safety of the constituents through zoning processes and other processes that you folks have the authority to regulate under. This is a serious matter, and it does affect a lot of people. I'd just like to touch on a couple points in a legal brief here, that it is a constitutional property right, as well as a constitutional patient's right to grow their own cannabis in the state of California, if they have a recommendation. And certain counties are looking at properly regulating and having these establishments that can pay taxes, that can donate to county coffers and support the county and be something positive. So I just would like to ask you all look at this in a real situation manner and do some research. And I thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment at this time? Seeing none, I will close public comment. And we will go back to number 10, item 10 on the consent agenda.
Yes.
Pardon me?
Proclamations.
Oh, well, we could do that right after we do item 10.
What can I do for you, Supervisor Sullivan?
Don't go anywhere. I'm the one that requested it, and I've just got some questions. I'm looking through the figures on this Transitional Housing Program Plus, and it seems kind of high at $3,500 or $3,600 a child per month. In terms of the, I mean, are these high-risk kids, or is it foster kids that are transitioning to independence?
These are foster children that are transitioning to independence, and I wouldn't necessarily, I don't know about the at-risk, but certainly they have lots of needs.
Sure.
And need lots of support, so that's why they have a social worker assigned to them. The rates are part of a state plan, and the state has to approve the rates that you, the board, approve. So we've been operating with that same rate for, I believe it may be 4 years now.
This isn't an individual charge, this is for 7? This is the total
This would be
amount?
if there were 7 children, 7 youth there every month for a year, then it would be $302,000. And in fact, I have here last year we served 3, it was actually 5. But what we're going to be seeing here, it's interesting you should bring this up, is that with AB 12, the new federal and now state legislation, there's going to be some major changes, positive for youth, for transition-age youth. And there's a new set of regulations that are just now coming out, and some of these funds may be utilized for, now what we'll be able to do is serve youth who want to come back into our system, who have been out of the system voluntarily, and they may be able to access some of these programs where right now there's more restriction. So we think we'll be actually get a lot closer to using the entire allotment of funds in the next year or two.
And I don't
what
want
we
to take
have
away
so
from it.
far.
It's a great
It's
program and
wonderful.
stuff. I just
Yeah.
question the size of the ticket at $43,000
Yeah.
per child per year. And
the cost.
looking over the duties of Remy Vista, they're only going to meet with them once a week.
They provide housing, maybe I should provide you with some more detail, but they provide a wide range of support, including the youth actually are able to build a bank account.
Sure.
And so part of the bank account, they have to earn some funds through various ways, but some of that is connected to the fees, or to the monthly rate. So there's a number of things that go into the rate that don't necessarily go directly to Remy Vista. But this is a very typical rate. This is not unusual. It's not. It's what we felt was fair when they presented their proposal several years ago. We did an RFP, and their proposal won, and we've stayed with them ever since. But like I said, there may be some changes very soon that you'll see different plans in the next few months.
Yeah, because I'd like the pot of money. I'd like to capture more kids with it.
That's what we want to do too.
It seems the other thing that seems is how involved is the school district in this? Because some of these traits that they're going to teach these
Yes.
kids should be taught at the school district. Like
There's
living
no doubt
skills
there,
and-
no question there at all. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. Some of the children are leaving without the kinds of skills that they really need to be able to make it. And so we have to find other ways to provide them with those. Now, of course, we encourage them to go to College of the Redwoods, provide a lot of support for them to do that. If they're still in school, we provide them with lots of incentives to finish, get your high school diploma. There's lots of support around, because we know without education, they're not going to succeed. They're just not. So that's a big part of the program.
Yeah,
Very
no,
critical.
I heard, I got lots of the stories from talking with you, talking
Yes.
to my mom who was involved with the foster kids.
She knows them well.
Definitely, it is something that needs. It just seems like it seems like a lot just for a few, instead of using that lot for more.
Well, yes, it is a significant amount of money. The children in the foster care system have not been handed a very fair deal over the years. And if more were done earlier, they probably wouldn't need so much now. So this is why we're trying to transform that system and provide a lot more front-end work for the foster children. So the time they get to this point, their needs are not so great, but they are tremendous needs.
Yeah, and with California Endowment involved now and looking at reforming on the school district side,
Yes.
is there a possibility that dialogue can begin to happen as to some of the stuff that Remy Vista is providing through this contract should be taught in the school district? Living skills, that's the whole point of going to high school, is coming out with the ability to go live in your own place and make a living. Anyway, I hope that discussion begins to happen on that, because
It has begun, and it will continue to. I completely agree with you.
I think the point that you brought up is that more effort is being done early on, and that this is sort of a pay it forward in a sense that we were not paying attention
right.
to our emancipated foster youth. And thank God the legislature did step up, put it in perspective, and not to justify it, but the same amount of money you're talking about putting into positive programs and rehabilitation and housing and stipends to start a bank account and learning how to deal with day-to-day living for these people, for these youth, is directly related and even less than what we are paying the same individual when they go to prison.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's the other side of the coin. Yeah,
Yes,
that's very
so
true.
pay me now, pay me later. We already know, and we've talked about it at this level, what happens to these youth when they emancipate out at 18.
That's right.
They go to prison, they're homeless, they don't complete their education, they commit suicide. This is the lost generation we're talking about here, these people. And we've been an advocate for this, and yes, $43,000 seems to be a lot of money, but it's not. It's money spent in a very positive, proactive way that's attacking some of the recidivism issues and that's making good citizens.
And my issue isn't the intent and what it does. My issue is it seems like you could capture more kids with this amount of money in the process.
Well, I think unfortunately, you brought up a point that is overlooked, is that where you capture those kids is prior to 18, when this money kicks in.
Yeah.
If we do the job as a community, as a school district, as foster parents, as social services, if we do that job from starting with 0 to 5s and follow them through the school system, and we do it properly, we don't need to expend this money at 18, because they would have already had the skills through their foster parents and through the school district to be good, productive citizens when they do emancipate out. That's not the case so far, so this is to maybe get that program going. I'll get off my soapbox. I think it's a step in the right direction.
Appreciate
Move
those
to approve.
comments.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any public comment on item number 10? Seeing none, I have a motion and a second. Would you call the vote, please? As part of the consent.
Supervisor McClure?
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Supervisor Sullivan?
Yes.
Supervisor Finnegan?
Yes.
Chair McNamer?
Yes.
Just as an aside here, not to get lost, the good points that were brought up about what needs to be done prior to them emancipating out. And I think that maybe we can go back to some of our goal committees and at least start some of those conversations with groups, not just First Five, social services, but the school district definitely, Mike. I think you're onto something.
Okay, we have two proclamations. Approve the following proclamations. Proclamation.
Move to approve?
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Being none, motion carries. And at this time...
Madam Chair, since mine is going to say pulled vote, can we pull the
Oh,
votes?
yes, yes. Call the vote, please, Joey.
Supervisor McClure?
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Supervisor Sullivan?
Yes.
Supervisor Finnegan?
Yes.
Chair McNamer?
Yes. Thank you, David.
His is different.
Yours doesn't say poll vote?
His was on the consent. These were not.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Supervisor Sullivan, would you like to read yours, please?
Yeah. Proclamation presented by the Del Norte Board of Supervisors in recognition of Remember Pearl Harbor Week, the week of December 7th through the 13th, 2011. Whereas December 7th, 2011 marks the 70th anniversary of the surprise attack bombing of Pearl Harbor by the Empire of Japan, which signaled the beginning of World War II. And whereas it is fitting and proper to acknowledge the importance of this attack on our homeland, which cost the lives of 2,400 civilian and service personnel, and whereas they continue to fight against overwhelming odds, their message of sacrifice and bravery are timeless in the American spirit, and whereas the soldiers and sailors who survived the attack continued to defend the United States for the duration of the war, along with countless other military personnel, and whereas, as stated by President Franklin D. Roosevelt, yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. Now, therefore, the County of Del Norte hereby proclaims this week of December 7th through the 13th as Remember Pearl Harbor Week, and asks the citizens of the County of Del Norte to recognize the significance of Pearl Harbor and the sacrifices of its veterans who at a time of great darkness stood between the defense of freedom and the oppression of world domination.
Katie?
I'm Katie Gavin. I'm the regent of the Del Norte chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. The Del Norte chapter would like to thank the Del Norte County Board of Supervisors for approving the Remember Pearl Harbor Week proclamation. The events of December 7, 1941 will forever change the United States. The attack that started at 7:55 a.m. lasted 2 hours and 20 minutes and came in 3 waves of attacks. The Japanese planes returned to their carriers and headed to their homeland for lavish honors on the success of their attack. Behind them, they left sunken fleet and mass destruction. Rising from this destruction, the United States met her enemy's aggression until victory was secured. This victory that was secured the freedom that we enjoy today, was accomplished by the World War II veteran. The American people and generations of Americans yet to be born owe the World War II veteran everlasting gratitude. At a time when tyranny was on fire, they stood between us and total destruction. The American people must never forget the sacrifices our American veterans have sacrificed for us. It is in this spirit of the American veteran that we thank you for this proclamation. I would like to add that this proclamation will be placed at the Veterans Hall through the month of December. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Supervisor McClure?
I don't know if the Standrings are here. I don't know if we want to wait.
I could have Supervisor Finnegan read
Let me
his.
wait.
Oh, okay. This one is not one of the proclamations, but a...
I apologize. Yes, it's a resolution.
Yes.
And it's resolution number 2011-068, a resolution of the Board of Supervisors of the County of Del Norte reappointing Gerald D. Cochran to represent Del Norte County on the Board of Directors of the Golden Gate Bridge and Highway Transportation District. Whereas Del Norte County is part of the Golden Gate Bridge, Highway, and Transportation District, and whereas this membership allows the Board of Supervisors to appoint one representative to sit on the Board of Directors of the district and to serve at the pleasure of the Board of Supervisors, and whereas Section 27-124 of the Streets and Highways Codes provides that the Board's appointment shall be reviewed every 2 years in January. And whereas the Board of Supervisors of the County of Del Norte wishes to reappoint Gerald D. Cochran to represent Del Norte County on the district's Board of Directors, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Del Norte, State of California, hereby appoint Gerald D. Jerry Cochran, a resident of Del Norte County, to membership on the Golden Gate Bridge and Highway Transportation District to serve for the term from February 2012 to January 2014. Passed and adopted by the Board of Supervisors of the County of Del Norte, State of California, this 22nd day of November 2011 by the following polled vote, and it was unanimous. Jerry?
Just briefly, we've been getting a lot of complaints that we closed the east sidewalk for repairs of the Anchorage House on the north end, and we just opened it Saturday, 6 weeks ahead of schedule. So any complaints to you folks about walking, tell them we've taken care of it. A couple other things that are going on this year with the bridge is we're going to all electronic tolling. So we've got 30 toll takers, and I think we're down to, well, 30 total, and they're down to 20 active, and then we got part-time coming in, so we're filtering those people into other jobs within the district. And people are amazed that we're moving forward with this, but it's a fact of life. They do it in toll roads and every place else. I am on that committee. I voted against it because of the employment issue, but I was outvoted. Over a 10-year period, it'll save $10 million. So anyway.
How does it work?
Jerry, yeah. How do I pay my $6 next weekend?
Very simple. Very simple. After you become a customer versus a violator when you go across the bridge under all electronic tolling. They take pictures of your license plate now, front and back, and as soon as you pay, of course, then it's wiped out. But now we're going to retain that, and we've got reciprocal agreements with DMV in California and many other states. We don't have Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, but we don't have very many cars from.
So what, you'll send me a bill?
They'll send you a bill within 18 days, and you become a violator when you fail to pay that bill within a 2-week period or whatever. And then you become the violator, and then they go after you. And there's you can register your credit card with the company handling the process, and they'll just automatically deduct it, just like your fast track, or you can get fast track. 70% of the people using the bridge today are fast track, believe it or not. And anyway, it's and a couple of things that happened. We discovered that 15% of the people in the Bay Area do not have checking or banking accounts. I mean, that kind of surprised me that, but there are a lot of people there. But they now pay bills going to to the 7-Eleven store, and you can do the same thing with the bridge tolls. So anyway, it's kind of interesting.
So you don't have a way to pay when you cross, like swiping a card, you just get sent a bill?
No. Well, now you still have the toll takers. This will take effect a year from this month. We'll put that into effect. So you're safe as long as as long as you get in the right-hand lane.
One of those card swipe things.
Now, well, but then you got to slow down to do it. See, and the object of it is to keep the traffic flowing. And
So nobody uses the suicide barrier that you guys.
And how would you get a
And I voted
card
against that too.
that you would swipe to everybody that
At
might
the
cross
recommendation
the
board.
bridge?
Just a regular credit card.
Excuse me.
Oh, just put your credit card in.
Yeah.
I didn't, oh, you mean just if you wanted to pay? On the buses, we have a swipe where you can walk on the bus, but the bridge, you can stick your arm out the window as you're driving 25, 30 miles an hour.
They say people can walk behind you and get your credit card with their little
Yeah.
machine,
Yeah, so you wouldn't
hold it out
necessarily
the
want to do.
window and drive on by 50 miles an hour.
But rental cars are already on board. We've signed them up. They automatically tally them up and charge the tenant or the renters. So everyone's on board with this process. It's technology moving
Why
forward.
a project they've taken on.
No, it is. It is. We had one after some function. I met with a young couple who claimed that it took them 2 years to get a citation in the mail, and what we found out is that the young man and his young wife had used the mother's van and went across the bridge and failed to pay, and they were sending the bills to the mother, and they just discarded them. So hey, it's not our bill. We weren't in San Francisco, and ultimately it came out that the kid, I got him hooked up with one of our agents down there, and they finally got it figured out. It was his mother's van, and he did pay the citation. Anyway, anytime you guys have a question, give me a call. I'm sure you do. You will. And thank you very much.
Thank
All right.
you, Jerry. Thanks for
Thanks.
serving. Just for clarification, Gretchen, the resolution was not included in item 10 in the consent agenda. It was a separate. So I still need to get a motion and
So move.
Which one?
for Jerry's.
It was on the consent agenda.
Yeah.
It was on the consent, it was a full vote.
It was on number 7, consent.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought we. You're good. Because I thought we, never mind. Okay, you don't have to pull a vote.
So
It was separate from the other two, so I felt like. Okay, I don't know. Any representative for Ms. Standring?
I think what I saw there is they invited you to attend the ceremony and present it then.
And that's, when is that? Saturday?
Yeah.
Okay. I will be glad to carry that. You guys don't mind?
Thanks.
Go, thank you.
Yep. Okay, we're running a little behind. I'm going to open the public hearing to provide the public an opportunity to hear and comment on the results of the development of a business plan and conceptual drawings for the construction of affordable housing utilizing shipping containers.
Madam Chair, normally you would be hearing from Jim Carnegie about this point, who's our fiscal manager, is the lead on most of our CDBG projects. The recommendation before you is to conduct a public hearing. It is also to accept the final product produced through the grant as meeting the requirements of the grant and agreement between the county and the Community Assistance Network. As you might recall, the board did approve a PTA grant in regards to the CDBG program. And before you today is the final product of that grant, and I believe Ms. Howerton and the executive director will be explaining the entire project and the report that sits before you. Doug?
Very good. Thanks, Jay. Doug Morgan, Executive Director of Community Assistance Network, and Can,
Howerton with Community Assistance Network as well.
yeah. So do we have the PowerPoint available, or?
It is.
Okay, I'll get it.
Okay. I guess while he's pulling that up, I just wanted to thank Barbara Burke with the SBDC because she worked closely with me on this project, but also in bringing the architects into the community. We felt like it was really important because this is a community project that we had some advising, and we invited a number of folks to come out for a public meeting to give input to our architects. And Heidi Kunstall and Janine were both a part of that, as well as Catherine Murray with the city, and really appreciated, having them at the table to provide input on what this vision could look like for our community in the future.
All right, so as many of the supervisors and community are aware, CAN has been for several years now undertaking a project that we call CAN Cottages, and it's both an affordable housing development project and an affordable office suites, and also accommodates affordable office suites and community facilities of different types, which we will elaborate here short with. It's also by nature a workforce and economic development project. So as we all know, in Del Norte County's state over the last decades, workforce and economic development stands at the forefront of what we as a community need to do. So this is a community elevating project of Community Assistance Network. So what's the big idea behind our ambition? Well, one is a philosophy, and one of CAN's philosophies are that problems are disguised opportunities. In this case, the problem is that the United States imports far more goods than it exports. This creates a vast stateside surplus of steel shipping containers. And I'm sure all of us have seen in one form or another these shipping containers dispersed around about the county. But as it is, they're dispersed not just around the county, but they're dispersed all around the nation. And more particularly, they are loading up, they're packing up in harbors, large shipping harbors on both the east and the west coast. And as you can see here in the PowerPoint, one of the characteristics of these containers is that they're designed to be stacked up to 10 high and designed to withstand all the violent weather that the sea can unleash. So in essence, these containers have come to be as vis-a-vis right around 1950 is when they were really invented. Prior to that, the cargo shipping was primarily done in the hull. But a creative gentleman who actually was a trucker, who bringing a truck with his trailer to the harbor was noticing how laborious and how time-consuming it was to move freight from the dock into the hulls of the boats, and he thought to himself, well, wouldn't it be a fine idea if we could just, instead of spending all this time and labor doing that, if there was a big crane that could just pick up the trailer of my truck and stack it onto the ship. Well, that happened to be the origin of what we now know as shipping containers. So they're very similar to the trailers of tractor trucks that roam our highways. And so that idea has been extrapolated into what we now know as shipping containers. And as you can see in the depictions here, they're used very heavily, and they carry a lot of material. They're designed to be sturdy, withstand all that the sea can unleash, and the sea can unleash a lot, including salt water, harsh weather, bumps and hurdles. And these containers, even though they're packed with very high volume material, high weight material, they're able to withstand that. So with that as the problem, that the United States is accumulating vast amounts of these shipping containers because we import more than we export. What's the solution, or at least one solution? Well, it so happens that these containers are superbly suited as primary structural components for buildings of all types. And while CAN's primary focus has been on housing, and we'll elaborate on that briefly here in this presentation, we've also discovered that many of our both local and non-local usage of these containers can be for non-housing activities, including apartments, office suites, hospitals, schools, community facilities, industrial facilities, warehouses, and self-storage units.
I'd like to just interject as the Homeless Prevention Alliance president that in a lot of our research about affordable housing development, as that being a key component of what we should be aiming towards, a lot of the communities out there are in similar situations that we are, where there aren't a lot of affordable housing options, and especially quality affordable housing options, because a lot of times what ends up happening is people just erect huge apartment buildings just in volume trying to house people, but it ends up being not quality structures that end up, becoming the projects or dilapidated, and then they're back at square one trying to find solutions. And so the fact that these are structurally sound makes Can Cottages probably gives them the lead in the affordable housing component.
Well said, Kendra, and so it's probably no surprise to anyone who at least has some familiarity with local property, housing, and apartments, is that it's often the case is that an outside architect or builder will come into our community and build an apartment, but due to failure to take into considerations our particular economic climate and geographic seismic geographic components, that these units within 10 years or so become debilitated and moldy and just an eyesore and virtually uninhabitable.
And we've definitely seen that because we've been exploring potential future development sites, and the possibility of either rehabbing or tearing down and rebuilding, and seeing structures that were built only 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that, per our contractors' recommendations, literally needed to be knocked down and a new structure placed there. So we're seeing that. So
one place that CAN is in this long-term project is what we call the prototype phase. So we've won a sizable amount of money from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to design and then construct a prototype, and it's a single-family dwelling. To apprise you of where we're at with that, CAN just closed escrow on several blighted lots on the corner of Meridian and Childs after completing extensive environmental, historical, and archaeological studies on the site to the satisfaction of HUD. And just mentioning all these studies that we had to do, I think it's worth noting that because of our particular funding source, namely HUD, which is a federal agency, we have regulatory barriers concurrent with our activities that don't, thankfully, exist with development, real estate development, and funding sources that are of another nature. But due to our funding source, we have particular barriers that we've had to overcome. So along with closing escrow on the properties mentioned, and you'll see a picture of that shortly, CAN has also hired a general contractor to officiate the work, And we will be breaking ground as soon as the necessary permits are secured. On that note, because the property in question is on county property, we'll be seeking building permits through the county, and we will hopefully be on the docket for the early January Planning Commission meeting to secure those building permits. And here we have a depiction, a photographic depiction of the property in question. As you can see, it is blighted. It's just outside of city limits, within a very, kind of in the midst of a residential area, and I'm pretty confident that none of us in this room want to see this type of property in our community. So in response to that, architectural work has been completed, complete with construction drawings, and this is a depiction of the east side of what the property will look like. Here's a depiction of what the south side of the property will look like. And as you can see, so while we're utilizing shipping containers as a primary constructional component of these houses, they don't look like
boxy shipping containers.
Boxy shipping containers or trailers, not meaning to demean those who might live in trailers, but they're houses that any of us, I suspect, would be proud to have right next door. And that's been one of our ambitions, that we're not looking to build cheap, chintzy, lame-looking housing, but we're looking to build houses that are affordable, but at the same time structurally strong and durable and beautiful. So as we move from the prototype phase to the post-prototype phase, one methodology or approach that we used is what we call bouncing off the boundaries. So as we conferred with our architectural team and design team in considering what we might construct in the post-prototype phase, because the prototype is already nailed. Design-wise, we secured the property, we're going to build it. So the next phase is post-prototype. And in this post-prototype phase, we wanted to capture options, construction options, affordable housing options within a certain range. And to really capture this range, we utilized a technique that we call bouncing off the boundaries. And as you can see in the depiction here, we range from single-family units, which is really the base units, to multifamily units. And multifamily can be to include almost any number. But then we also move, now before I hit this point, when I or anyone else speaks of affordable housing, often what comes into mind is very cheap, chintzy, unattractive housing for very low-income people. And so while part of our ambition does include providing housing to very low-income people, when we initially designed this study, which was right around 2008, that was really at the height of the housing market. Prices were sky high. It was a seller's market, and housing was very unaffordable. And during that time, we recognized that affordable housing applies not just to very low-income people, but it extends all the way to moderate income people. As a matter of fact, I know, you probably know, people, very high professionals, for example, lawyers, who could not, at least at that time, purchase housing that was commensurate with their accomplishments. So when we're talking about affordable housing, we're stretching the spectrum from very low income all the way to moderate income, and then once again, from single-family to multifamily.
And I just want to interject that the affordability doesn't just include the initial cost to either construction or purchase the home. It also includes the longevity, because a part of the structurally innovative components of the housing is intended that the repair and maintenance of the homes is going to be less. So over time, you definitely are seeing a cost savings because you're not paying out to fix problems that would occur sooner if the housing wasn't as structurally sound.
Very good. And as we have proceeded over the years with this whole effort, one of the opportunities that has come to our attention is non-housing applications of this technology. And to elaborate a bit, the Can Cottages warehouse, or more specifically a prefab warehouse, and I'll elaborate a bit more on that shortly. But we'll be building a warehouse within which we're going to prefabricate shipping containers to then move to the building site, conjoin those prefabricated shipping containers with conventional construction techniques to erect the units, whether houses or non-housing units. Well, that being the case, this warehouse that we're going to build is itself going to be a showpiece that depicts the capabilities of what we call hybridized construction by converting shipping container space into office space, bathrooms, tool rooms, break rooms, workstations, locker rooms, and more. So we do not yet have a depiction of the warehouse. We're in the early stages of conversing with our architect on generating conceptual drawings. But I do look forward to presenting both to the Board of Supervisors and to other interested parties just how advantageous this type of construction can be in a non-housing application. All right, so as stated, Ken originally dived into this effort right around 2008 when the housing market was at its peak. Prices were sky high, and it was very difficult for many people for many locals to afford quality housing. Since then, as pretty much all of us know, the housing market and real estate in general has taken a big dive. And so that led us to a realization that if we're going to proceed in viable real estate development, that we need to devise a model which accommodates the variability that exists in the real estate market. So we created what we call market-responsive real estate development, or the acronym would be Mr. Red. I kind of like that acronym. And it represents a savvy approach that flexes to the current market conditions and trends, as this tabular depiction demonstrates. And I'm not going to go over all of this, we just don't have time. But to highlight a few of the features of this depiction, in the far left column you have the market description, and there's really three scenarios. You either have a buyer's market, a seller's market, or a balanced market. In the buyer's market, briefly, demand is low, inventory is high. Prices are reduced, offers are lowered, there are fewer offers. In the seller's market, in contrast, demand is high, inventory is low. Offers are higher, prices increase. And a balanced market is, as you could imagine, kind of in intermediary stage. Well, whatever the market, the real estate market might be, there exist both unviable and viable development options. So I'm going to skip the unviable for the moment, just for time's sake, and look briefly at the viable development options. So during a buyer's market, it seems that the most viable options, including buying, refurbishing, and renting, in contrast to a seller's market in which it seems most viable to build and sell. One of the many real estate experts we talked to during the development of our business plan made a comment that really stuck in my mind with respect to today's market, namely that it's more expensive to build something than it is to sell it. So it costs more to build it than what you can get from selling it.
Probably the reason they're not making construction loans right now.
Yeah, and that being the case, we as a budding real estate developer, we have to recognize the ramifications of those trends and then respond to them, be really willing to flex to them. So in today's market then, what would Can be doing? What will we be focusing on? We're going to be focusing on buying existing property, refurbishing it, and then renting it. However, we do have a couple exceptions, namely that we've already won money to build our prototypes. We're in process of building that. We've also won money to build our prefab warehouse, so we're in process of building that. Okay, so you can have the greatest ideas in the world, you can have the greatest mission in the world, but in the absence of money, not much happens in the world. So what are some of our capitalization strategies? Well, in brief, interested and/or potential funders and investors include the following. The California Endowment, both on a carte blanche basis and through what they call their
Program-related investment program.
Program-related investment program.
And I'm actually going to LA next week, and part of the purpose of my trip is to learn more about the program-related investments and what that means for economic development and workforce development here.
Another feature of the California Endowment is the Building Healthy Communities Initiative, which most of you, I presume, know about, a 10-year initiative which has been and will be continue to infuse millions of dollars into our community every year. One of the aspects of that initiative is the development of, is economic development, but also affordable housing development.
I'd like to just note that you'll notice an entity you may not recognize, EarthCore. A lot of the other ones may be somewhat familiar to you, but EarthCore makes SIPS panels, which is part of one of the components that we decided to use in this business plan for the construction. And EarthCore indicated in conferring with them a desire to potentially work with us, even the possibility of making investment in the property, in the project and moving forward. And so now that we've completed the business plan and we're doing the presentation here, one of our next steps is to begin conferring with them to see what that might look like.
Yeah, so just to elaborate a bit, SIPS is an acronym, refers to structurally insulated panel systems. And they're a unique form or creation of constructional components that in essence they comprise walls. So whereas conventional construction, you stick build them, you frame build the walls, SIPS panels are ready-made walls that can be conformed to almost any configuration.
And we can also import them in bulk, and we can actually manufacture them. The way we did our designs is that these could actually be pre-cut and shipped out as packages
to the building site.
To the building site, so it's exportable and genuinely cottage industry that could bring money in from the outside.
Yeah, so in essence, combining our modified steel shipping containers with the very flexibly used SIPS panels equals what may be our hybridized approach in the post-prototype phase. And on that note, and one reason that EarthCore, the second funder from the bottom, is noted is that as we in our architectural team and design team has conferred with them about what we're doing, they have expressed interest not only in providing their materials to us, but in making monetary investment into our projects.
One of the things that we learned too, I will say, is that in our prototype phase, we've kind of, obviously the purpose of a prototype is lessons learned, and the realization that in working with low-income families, especially when you're talking about making purchases, the need for almost case management to walk them through the process because they really are not at a place in life. Ford Foundation has been known to fund projects like that, and so our purpose is to, share these ideas and with the possibility of gaining financial support to make sure that that component is in place.
And as you can see, we have, along with those mentioned, just a retinue of very viable funding sources to help us proceed with this project. And I can, as you might wish, elaborate on any of the above, but for purposes of time, I'm going to move on. So, design potential, you can see some of the structures, in this particular case, houses, which have been constructed utilizing steel shipping containers as primary constructional components. So these are not your junkyard, trailer trash kind of designs, but as I said, these are things that most of us would be proud to have next door. Along with what has already been done nationally and globally with respect to utilizing these containers as constructional components, as part of CAN's agreement with the county, we conferred with, sent out bids for, evaluated the bids, and then settled on an architectural team, in this case, Piner Works Construction and Architectural Group out of Sacramento. And we worked with them for many months to come up with a number of conceptual designs.
They visited our community, and we took them on an extensive tour and met with local leaders to get information and input in their designs, because it was really important to us that they understood our community in creating the designs and not just, designing something that they were used to designing that they think would work. They really took a lot of time, and we met weekly via conference call to really hammer out the designs. So I just, want to say that there's extensive amount of background work that went into advising these plans.
Yeah, so they met with local leaders. We took them on a tour of our community in as many neighborhoods. They took photographic journals of our community, all of which contributed to the consequent designs that I'm going to show at least a few of. So as far as design team, we created 4 options, and this corresponds with our bouncing off the boundaries model. We wanted a very low income single-family unit, a moderate income single-family unit, a very low income multifamily unit, and then lastly, a moderate income multifamily unit. And what I'm going to show you is just one of those versions. And in this case, it's a multifamily, moderate income unit. And this is a 3D depiction of what is presently a vacant lot on Pebble Beach Drive. And so, as you can see, this unit does what I think, now I know taste is, it's like ice cream, some of us like vanilla and some like chocolate, and that doesn't make one of us wrong and one of us right, it just means that we have different taste. But, regardless of our tastes, I think we can all agree that this depiction, this design, this creation of a hybridized unit utilizing steel shipping containers fits very well within the Pebble Beach Drive community.
Not with the zoning, it doesn't.
I'm sorry?
Not with the zoning, it doesn't.
Okay, now zoning is obviously something that we have to consider.
I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I just...
That's fine. At any juncture, zoning is an issue. And I think I'm going to highlight that a bit more just in a moment.
And I will also say that it was mainly the purpose of taking a vacant lot to depict what could be possible. And you'll notice that there's plants growing. That's actually a green roof, and it actually provides quite a bit of insulation. So that was kind of purposely incorporated into the plan.
All right, 3D interior rendition of the duplex. You can see some of the features Just taking for a moment the left side primary living space, and then up here, which you'll see more explicitly in a moment, is some of the private spaces, bedrooms, and that kind of thing. And once again, you'll see this is the primary living space, kind of you could call it a great room, and kitchen kind of back there, and the primary living space out here, and a lofted area. And here's more of the private space, and this is a good portion of the space in which the containers themselves really come into play. So you have bedrooms, closet, bathrooms, laundry, kitchen and dining area. Here's a kind of a 3D living interior version of what it would look like. And as I've said multiple times, and I'm saying again, I don't know about you, but I would be very pleased and proud to have a unit like this next door to my house. And here is yet another rendition of what the 3D living interior would look like.
We talked a lot about wanting to capitalize on sunlight and things like that, and how to incorporate that into the designs, given our weather and the appreciation for sunlight when we do have it. And I hope that's captured in some of those.
Yeah. Manufacturing site. So as mentioned, part of where we're at, part of where we're going, and part of what we're doing is not just making a house, not just making a prototype and planning for post-prototype homes, but we've already got the money, and we're in process of building a manufacturing site for these units. So the manufacturing site in question is a 1.5 acre lot on Standard Veneer Road, right across from the present CAN headquarters. And it's, as you can see here, there's the wine cellar place right over here. What you cannot see on the left-hand side is Red Sky Roofing. And then over on this side of the street would be CAN's headquarters. So presently it's a vacant, unused lot, been for sale for years. Well, we're in escrow to buy this thing. And
we have to go through actually more extensive studies than we did on the prototype property, and so that is in process right now before we can close escrow, because the monetary source also requires for us to do similar archaeological, environmental site, and historical site reviews.
That's correct. So just to elaborate again, because of the funding source CAN had to proceed with these projects, it entails a greater number of barriers than typically is the case with real estate development, but that's part of our package. So next steps, or you might say our present steps from the present forward, is we're seeking partnerships, both including financiers, developers, governmental leaders, business leaders, and investors. So that's it. Any questions?
Price per square foot?
We sought to keep it under $100 per square foot, and in most cases, we either acquired that ambition or we're below it.
In your business plan, did you?
And the back under Piner Works, you got $137 per square foot and $156 per square foot, $118 per square foot. There's an actual 104. I think it's the lowest one you got, at least in the packet we have here.
I would like to know if if this funding has the same attachments like Hidden Creek Apartments and the other ones where the property comes off our tax rolls.
I'm not familiar with their funding source. Ours is the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, and we've won the grant to do it once the building's constructed, whether it be the warehouse or the house. comes under ownership of CAN, and we can either choose with the prototype to either sell the home or we can lease the home. And obviously with our market responsive information, we would probably in this current climate choose to lease at this present state. Now, other funding sources that we are seeking investment or actual infusion through grant dollars, some of those are private, and so they have different terms and conditions of the funding. So, like I said, I'm not familiar with Hidden Creek and what their funding source is, so I couldn't really speak to that.
This is a great question, though, Supervisor McNamer, and it's one that I don't have an answer for, because obviously CAN is a nonprofit organization. So whether what we build, regardless of what we do, that rent it or, well, if we sell it, then it's no longer going to be ours. And so I presume it would fall right under normal policies and practices for taxing. If we retain ownership and lease it, I do not know what the tax ramifications would be.
I also wanted to speak to the issue that you talked about. The 137, I know that you're talking about, I believe that's the moderate income level, and the close to $100 range is the very low income. One of the, I think, creative pluses to the project and the way we worked with the architects is that they created modules. And so, say a family that's just getting started can only afford this much home, but they know that their family is going to be growing. It gives them the option of buying and building the home that they can afford right now, knowing that later down the road they can actually purchase additional modules to add to their home. Rather than having to go through the process of selling their home and finding something else to move into that may or may not meet their needs, they can actually project, family growth and what they're going to need in the future. Additionally, I want to just, make the point again that it's not only the upfront affordability of the structure, it's the longevity of the structure, in that it's going to reduce your maintenance costs in the long run that provides affordability.
And one of the aspects about the price of the construction price as presently calculated is that this is a business plan, and we're also in the prototype phase. So we're in a learning phase, and so if we learn that constructing homes, at least by this technique, is not more affordable than conventional construction, then, well, we need to take that in consideration and perhaps alter our approach. So we're learning.
So have you guys factored the impact of foreclosures on the supply?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what our market responsive approach is, and that in the current market conditions, our ambition would be to, if there's structures out there that are in foreclosure and are for sale and are viable investment properties, then we would hopefully pursue purchase and rehabbing those properties to, go with the market trends. However, I will say that we do have quite a few structures in our community that, even if they are in foreclosure and things like that, they're not quality and they aren't providing people with the type of living that we would hope, and it's not producing the type of quality that we want, I think, to elevate our community. So you have to kind of balance those things. Also, I wanted to point out that in our very low income multifamily dwelling, we had a lot of input and recommendations that came across, and I'm sure that we know, I can speak to the issue as the president of the Homeless Prevention Alliance, that we do have a huge homeless epidemic, and we also have, I think, a sector of our population that there isn't a lot of quality, affordable housing for disabled people living on fixed incomes and things like that. And the approach that we decided to take was, in designing the modules, it helped us kind of mix and match what we were designing, and we opted to go with a design that people could actually lease individual apartment units that maybe have a kitchenette or something like that, but that we would actually create a larger shared living space, because, to be quite frank, that's kind of the way people live anyway. They're multi-house sharing in dwellings that aren't really created to accommodate that. But if we actually are developing housing that kind of helps accommodate how they're living anyway, but it's quality and it's more affordable, then that's kind of part of what we took into consideration. And it was advised from community members that attended a meeting that we held, so.
Well, I guess as far as what was on the agenda, I appreciate your presentation of your work product. And I'm sure some other people in the public will want to say something. I think you probably met the product that was produced was in line with the grant, and that's something that we can accept.
Right.
I think for the purpose of this, you might have gone just a couple of steps past trying to interpret what is affordable, which might be missing in your business plan, what community tastes are, and what is market-driven. I think that's outside of the scope of what you're trying to do, and I would be very cautious of that. But as far as the product that you produced, and did it meet the terms of the grant? Yes.
I have a couple of questions in relationship to, you have architectural design. What have the engineers, I mean, when I'm thinking about building codes and the rules of the building code, how are these being analyzed?
Yeah, that's a great question, Supervisor McClure, and to that, the best answer I can give at present is as follows. With respect to our prototype, along with our architect, local architect who we work with strongly, he enlisted and we enlisted the services of a local engineer, Mike Young. And both Mike Young and Jeff Mitchell, our architect, executed personal, hands-on studies, evaluations of these units to come up with some conclusions about their structural integrity and then how that applies to the building trade.
In addition, the architects that we chose for this particular project, they've had experience in working with this container method, but they also, the architect that we work with, he's also a general contractor, and we felt like that was a huge benefit because he knew both ends of things.
She's speaking of the Sacramento-based architecture firm.
Yes.
Comments?
No, I was going to wait for public comment.
Okay.
Thank you. Public comment, Richard?
I do have a public comment. Recently, there was a program on a Eureka station sponsored by the National Association of Realtors that actually, I think, did an excellent job of punching a hole in this balloon that we heard today. And here's my concern. Anybody here can read our daily newspaper of the legal notices about the foreclosed homes in this area. In today's newspaper, I think I read 3 foreclosure notices. Most of these homes that are being foreclosed in, and I think David knows this, are not blighted homes. But if they're left vacant for a number of years, anytime a home will, they kind of deteriorate. Well, here's what bothers me. Instead of bringing shipping containers up from Oakland and manufacturing something out on standard veneer, you would think CAN would be working with our local real estate people and with HUD and with some of our local, and when I say local, I don't mean the Bank of America on purchasing some of these single-family homes using the same workforce that they want to develop to build these tin can homes and rehabilitate what we have. And what really bothers me, about 5 years ago, my city had a city planner. And when my city did their housing study, a big question was asked at that time. And I think the county should be asking this too. And that is, what is the real housing need for Del Norte County? And I believe it's medium-priced homes.
Thank you, Richard.
Right, if I might respond just briefly. Richard, if you had given attention to our presentation, you would have noted that we're taking a market responsive real estate development approach, or a Mr. Red approach. And part of that Mr. Red approach is taking into consideration the status of the real estate market.
Mr. Mark, thanks for here. We can't.
Okay.
We can't have conversations back.
Public comment? Yeah.
Any more public comment, Jim?
Jim Nelson. I have a couple of questions. This is government-funded money that's going to be doing this project?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. I'm all for CAN. I think CAN helps a lot of people, so I'm not going to say anything bad about CAN. I think it's a good organization. The two things I do have to say is, as an ex-builder and almost an ex-realtor, because of the market and my age, I question whether you can take an 8x40 box and convert it into a home by putting them together, cutting out walls, and do it less expensive than a stick-built home. I do feel there was some questioning there that the way you said doing prefab. Now, if you're gonna, I don't know if you're using the boxes as a way to get in to do this, but you said prefab. Now, prefab is a different story. If you're building prefab walls and bringing them in like California Cap Homes did, I don't know if they're still in business, that was a good home. And yes, prefab walls can be built, put in place for a home, and it's a quality home. There's some out off Craft Lane. I crawled underneath them, put heating systems in. But I question the dollar-wise of taking an 8x40 box and converting it into a home. Secondly, the thing I'm against, as a property owner of a few rentals, or more than a few rentals, the government is competing against people in Del Norte County already. We're seeing another 50-some units going up. That's government has stepped in to help build. And I don't think it's fair that we should compete with the government for property owners in Del Norte County that have rentals. I think if the government wants to help out that much, then they should be giving more money to HUD, so HUD can put more homes on, which will then help the people in the community, the property owners, and help the people who are looking for housing. So that's my feel. And I think at the $100 and some, which you're talking on today's level, you can build a stick-built home for the $100 a square foot. So I don't see where it's going to be considered an economy-built home. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I will bring it back to the board for any further discussion.
I think Supervisor Finnegan made a really good point, is the study did meet the needs of the grant, and that's really what we're talking about today. Whether these things can fly, I doubt it. I mean, especially in today's housing market, there's too many houses out there. You're competing against a surplus of houses. And taste is a big thing, as Supervisor Finnegan said, that I just can't see. I thought, didn't the billionaire Stryker, didn't she build a house with a green roof on it and they took it off? No, it's still there? Okay. Anyway, I think the grant, it meets the needs of the grant, so that's
Well, if
That's
that-
about as far as I'm going to go.
If that's the move to approve, then I'll second it, and then I'd also
I'm
like...
going to close the public hearing first. Thank you. Okay, now,
Is it closed?
yes, it's.
Okay, then I'll second.
Move to
What he moved, and just to add that, yeah, it met the term, needs of the grant, but as far as cost-effective, no. You can build a stick-built house for $100 a square foot or less, certainly less than $140 a square foot for low and medium-income tastes. You didn't take into consideration the modular units, which can be even less than the stick-built, which are a very nice home, aesthetically pleasing, and the new manufactured home that I'm sure that industry would take great offense to having them called tin can trailer trash, because even with the county codes, you have to have a certain type of siding, you have to have a certain type of foundation, you have to have a certain pitch on your roof. Those are significantly less per square foot to bring into a community and set up. So I think that you missed the boat on the argument of affordability in your business plan, and I would go back and work that up. Can it be done? Sure. Is it more cost-effective? Probably not at this point. And will the public buy it? That's the answer that needs to be, that's the question that needs to be answered.
Any other comments? Hearing none, I have a motion and a second. Joey, would you pull the vote, please?
Supervisor McClure?
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Supervisor Sullivan?
Yes.
Supervisor Finnegan?
Yes.
Chair McNamer?
Yes. Right along. Approve our timed items.
Move to approve, oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to go approve. Do budget transfers, that's all that's left on the.
I guess we'll move to the budget transfers being held.
Move to approve item 11-01,
Sullivan made it.
11-02.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Pull the vote, please. Oh, any public comment on these two budget items, budget transfers? Hearing none.
Supervisor McClure?
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Supervisor Sullivan?
Yes.
Supervisor Finnegan?
Yes.
Chair McNamer?
Yes. Item number 14, consent to the use of the county employer identification number.
We
by
already
person.
did it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I just went over to the next page and didn't realize it was carried through. No wonder you jumped right to budget transfers.
Yep.
Yeah. Legislative and budget issues, consider miscellaneous legislative and budget matters pertinent to the county of Del Norte. Mr.
think-
Serena.
Supervisor Finnegan hit on some of the hot topics already. Pension reform is still out there, and we're listening. Our advocates at both the federal level and state level have been relatively quiet lately because I think there's very little being discussed beyond those big hot topic items. So we will continue, and I believe we'll have a legislative platform coming up here in the next couple of months for the board to enter into. Budget issues, we will be preparing for the mid-year in regards to the governor's revise in January. And we will see where we go. In general terms right now, it looks fairly status quo with the county's budget. We've had a couple of things happen that we've discussed regarding contracts with some partners. But in general terms, I think we're staying relatively close to our budget, if not under it. And we will, as I said, we'll start to ramp up in December, but actually the mid-years will come in January, and we'll have a mid-year process that will start. And what we will do is, if any of the individual budgets have issues, we were going to reinitiate our typical budget meetings. In the past, we have dealt with those through the board, through different avenues, but we will be likely having sit-down meetings again to sit down and come up with solutions prior to coming back to the board. It'll be a more hands-on approach with the departments this time. Couple projects.
Before you go there, Madam Chair, if I might, SRA fees. Board of Forestry passed and adopted a group of regulations and fee structure that was more onerous, more expensive for everybody than was first recommended. The first recommendations were sent to the governor, which didn't provide for enough money, so he appointed 4 new people to the Board of Forestry who came back with even a worse set of solutions. So those are, I think, the next 180 days. They're open for public comment and revision and whatnot, and there are tax associations that are lining up to sue once those are implemented. It's not good for Del Norte County or rural California, and we'll be fighting that fight on a couple of different fronts.
And I just have one to add. It's kind of tooting my son's horn, but he's working with a group of Cal State University students that they are writing legislation that will prevent the chancellors from doing this piggy bank kind of increases and actually turn tuition increases into a process where there will be public comment and periods of time. Once one's approved, they can't back it up with another one. So I'm just kind of proud of him for doing that. So.
Okay, capital projects.
The primary capital project is the ramp in Klamath, and it is finished to the point of the final steps of removing material, and with the storms, that's obviously required it to be buttoned up first, and then the contractor's been negotiating prices with different agencies. I think most of that should be gone, and then the finish will be the final paving and striping of the parking lot, but the structure itself is done. So it should be actually usable, and it'll actually go through a year's worth of winter before we really get into a considerable amount of use next year.
Good job.
And is that it? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.